Welcome back to Skytech-Lens. It all began with a late-night message from the digital ether. In the quiet hours of August 2025, President Donald Trump launched a trade offensive against Canada, not with a diplomatic cable, but a fiery Truth Social post. He declared Canada's support for Palestinian statehood, made a trade agreement nearly impossible, publicly shaming Ottawa and daring it to fold. The world awoke to a new front in a global trade war, Trump's bombast versus Canada's quiet resolve. The news sent shockwaves through Ottawa and international markets, shaking the foundation of a once stable partnership. Trump's message signaled that no alliance was too sacred to sacrifice for his agenda. Yet in Ottawa, there was no panic, just a sense of weary resolve. Canada had seen this playbook before. The realization set in, this was a test of Canada's economic resilience and the character of Prime Minister Mark Carney. Markets trembled, pundits speculated, would Canada capitulate or stand its ground? What Trump didn't see was Canada's quiet preparation. The updated CUSMA trade agreement negotiated under Trump's first term contained airtight carve-outs, painstakingly secured by Canadian negotiators. As the sun rose, it was clear, Canada was not the unprepared victim Trump imagined, but a nation quietly confident in its ability to weather the coming storm. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test both countries' resolve. The world watched, waiting to see who would blink first. President Trump's strategy was overwhelming force. In July, his administration announced a punishing 35% tariff on Canadian goods, aluminum, lumber, agriculture, aimed at Canada's economic backbone. The message: comply or suffer. Trump bypassed diplomacy, using social media and news soundbites to pressure Canada, miscalculating Canadian resolve and overestimating U.S. leverage. The White House believed economic might would force Carney to the table, but ignored the realities of integrated supply chains and legal trade frameworks. American businesses felt the uncertainty, expansion plans stalled, hiring froze, and investment dried up. Trump's trade war, meant to project strength, instead sowed doubt and stagnation at home. Meanwhile, Canada presented a measured, unified front, quietly preparing for a long engagement. Trump's shock created plenty of chaos, but little awe. In the face of Trump's threats, Prime Minister Carney responded with deliberate calm. No late-night tirades, just a firm statement. National sovereignty is not a bargaining chip. This shifted the debate from trade to dignity, signaling Canada would not be bullied. The Carney Doctrine was built on preparation and resilience, highlighting legal protections in CUSMA that shielded most Canadian exports. Canada's foresight blunted Trump's threats before the fight began. Carney built national unity, even winning support from the conservative opposition. With 68% public approval, Carney had a mandate to stay the course. By refusing to react to every provocation, Canada seized control of the conflict's tempo. With CUSMA as its shield, Canada pivoted to offense. The government launched a $12 billion investment in manufacturing and energy, expanding aluminum smelters and building battery plants, directly targeting industries Trump had hit. Canada retaliated with a ban on American alcohol, galvanizing public support and boosting Canadian brands. The Made in Canada movement surged, with 62% of Canadians now avoiding U.S. goods. Carney's team accelerated export diversification, signing a $6 billion LNG deal with Japan and a $4.2 billion trade expansion with South Korea. Canadian beef sales to South Korea soared, and exports to the EU jumped 11%. Overall, non-US exports rose 14% year-over-year. Canada's strategic pivot mitigated US tariff damage and opened new growth avenues. The country was redrawing its trade map, moving from dependence to global partnership. Canada wasn't just surviving, it was emerging stronger and more integrated than before. The crisis became a catalyst for transformation. Canada's offensive strategy turned the tables on its southern neighbor. The world took notice. While Canada built new bridges, the US felt the pain of burning them. The tariffs boomeranged, slashing US GDP by 0.6%, a $150 billion loss. Markets tumbled, with the S&P 500 losing $800 billion in a single session. American workers and farmers suffered most as job growth stalled and farm exports dried up. U.S. households paid an extra $17 billion annually, with prices spiking in border states. The American Dairy Association lost $1.1 billion as Canada shut its doors. Political fallout grew. Republican governors and Democrats alike urged Trump to negotiate, Senator Amy Klobuchar called farmers collateral damage in a reckless political game. The strategy meant to project strength, exposed U.S. vulnerabilities, and imposed a heavy cost on its own citizens. America's wounds were deep and self-inflicted. As the dispute deepened, a stark divergence emerged. The U.S. economy sputtered under protectionism, while Canada's grew by 1.9% in Q2. Canadian manufacturing output rose, investor confidence soared, and foreign capital poured in. The loonie strengthened to its highest value in years. Meanwhile, U.S. markets grew volatile, and inflation hit 4.2%, eroding American purchasing power. The Federal Reserve's turmoil only added to the chaos. In Canada, inflation remained a manageable 1.7%. The tale was clear. Canada thrived on calm preparation. America faltered under chaotic aggression. The world saw which strategy worked. The trade conflict was also a battle for hearts and minds. In Canada, Carney's calm leadership forged national unity and economic patriotism. The Made in Canada movement became a grassroots force, with 68% supporting Carney's strategy and 62% avoiding U.S. products. Decades of goodwill toward the U.S. eroded, replaced by a determination to chart an independent course. In the U.S., public opinion fractured. Trump's base stayed loyal, but farmers and workers voiced frustration. Bipartisan criticism grew as livelihoods were sacrificed for a political fight with no clear end. Internationally, Canada's reputation soared. 71% of allied nations saw it as stable and trustworthy, compared to just 32% for the U.S. Carney was seen as a statesman. Trump, a disruptor. In the court of world opinion, Canada won a decisive victory. America's standing diminished as Canada's star rose. The 2025 trade conflict revealed a stark contrast in leadership. Trump's style was political theater, impulsive, performative, and driven by media attention. He governed by instinct, creating constant crisis and confrontation, believing personality could bend reality. This chaos was toxic to business and international relations. Carney, by contrast, embodied temperance and preparation, data-driven, strategic, and calm. He built consensus, respected institutions, and executed a clear plan. Carney's quiet strength proved more effective than Trump's bluster. The difference was clear. One leader tore down order for gain, the other strengthened it for the national good. Canada's quiet victory in 2025 offered a lesson in calm leadership and strategic foresight. Trump's tariffs backfired, uniting Canada and accelerating its global pivot while inflicting more pain on the U.S. The balance of power subtly shifted, with Canada's meticulous planning and airtight trade protections rendering Trump's threats ineffective. New trade deals and investments made Canada a sovereign economic power, not just a U.S. appendage. Canada's reputation soared. America's reliability was questioned. Carney's confidence outmatched Trump's bluster. The story proved that unity, strategy, and principled leadership can withstand immense pressure. Canada's quiet victory resonated loudly across the globe. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more updates.